You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Please hit the subscribe button. We are back. Had a little 2-week break. Went to Hawaii for some work stuff. Then went to New York with some family. Sorry for the break there. I don't do that very often. I've been very, very consistent for almost a year now. I plan to keep that going. Thank you for being here. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. And thank you for being here as well. Hit the subscribe button, you guys. Lots to talk about. Yes, I was gone. This little bottle you see sitting here, for those watching on YouTube, says Tripio on it. That is my company. It is a travel company. I like to consider myself a travel expert, and I actually got hired. So I typically do corporate retreats and things like that. Companies will hire me to take their top sales reps or executives or whatever and go on like an epic adventure trip. And I did enough of those that a wedding party reached out to me and said, hey, we want to do a destination wedding. We'd love to have you take us. So I did, and it was amazing. It was one of the funnest weeks I've had in a long, long time. So that had me like mega busy. That entire week in Hawaii, just didn't have a chance to get a podcast out. And then I went directly from there to New York for my sister's wedding and just didn't have, and anyway, so just 2 weeks went by and I apologize. But we're back and there's a ton to talk about, you guys. So much to talk about. We're going to start with BYU. The BYU football team, when we last talked, was 3-0. Now they're 5-0. And they just keep climbing the rankings. So the question is, can the Cougars make the college football playoffs, and do the Cougars belong in the college football playoffs? The answer to both is yes, they can make it, and yes, they would belong. Now, there's a caveat to the second part of that. If they make it, now again, they'll have to run the table to make it. Obviously, they'll have to go undefeated, but they'll have 7 victories over Power 5 conference schools. 7. The last of which would be on the road at USC. That would be a playoff clinching victory, right? If they can get to there and go 12-0, that would be a big deal. Now, the caveat to whether or not they belong there is this. It looks like nobody belongs with Alabama and Georgia, okay? BYU would probably be the 4 seed in the playoffs and get absolutely annihilated by Alabama. So it would seem to people like, oh, they didn't belong. But I would argue that everybody's going to get annihilated by Alabama or Georgia. Those two are just on a collision course for the national championship, it appears. Obviously, there's a lot of football left to be played. But do I think BYU has a chance to win a national championship? No, I don't. Not at all. So in that regard, they don't belong in the playoffs. But 4 teams get there. So if BYU is undefeated, they will belong because they will have earned it. So I think they can do it. So looking at the rankings, BYU is currently ranked 10th, okay? Ahead of them is 5-0 Michigan, who had a big jump in the rankings. There's coaches poll, there's AP poll, and then soon we will get the College Football Playoff Committee poll, and I'll be very interested to see where they put BYU in their initial rankings. I like that they don't do rankings right off the bat because a lot of these rankings are based off of reputation. Oh, your name is Clemson. Well, you must be good. You have 2 losses. We don't care. Your name's still Clemson, right? Okay, yeah, you're still in the top 25. Well, they finally caught on. Clemson is 21st in the coaches poll, and they are not in the AP poll. They would be 26th, but they didn't make it into the top 25. But they're 21st in the coaches poll at 3-2. And are they the 21st best team in the country? I don't freaking know. I just know that they haven't earned it right now, other than their name is Clemson, right? And so I like that the College Football Committee, Playoff Committee, waits to do their rankings until after, I think it's after week 6, which would mean this next week. Maybe it's even after week 7, but they wait to do their rankings until they've seen like a decent body of work, right? And right now, BYU's 5-0. So ahead of them, Michigan at number 9. This is the AP poll. Oregon at number 8. Ohio State at number 7, Oklahoma at number 6, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's an interesting one to look at. They're ranked ahead of BYU at number 5. They're also not a Power 5 conference. Also got invited to the Big 12, so they're viewed as one that's about to be a Power 5 conference school. They're 4-0, ranked 5 spots ahead of the Cougars. So that's a team to watch out for, because you would not see both Cincinnati and BYU get into the playoffs. I just hope that the committee catches on to the fact that BYU's schedule is tougher. And we'll get into that in a second. But number 4, Penn State. Number 3, Iowa. Number 2, Georgia. Number 1, Alabama. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these schools are going to suffer losses. We know that. It always happens every year, especially in the big conferences that have to play each other, and they end up losing games. BYU has a tough 4-game stretch ahead of them right now. This Saturday, Boise State. Then they have, I believe it's Washington State, then Virginia. Am I missing one somewhere? Let me just look it up. 2 seconds here, because I know I missed one. Baylor. I skipped Baylor. So Boise State this week, then Baylor, then Washington State, and then Virginia. That's a tough 4-game stretch for BYU. Boise State's a very respected non-Power 5 conference school. And then Baylor is Big 12, Washington State, another Pac-12, Virginia, ACC. So they have a very, arguably, a top 3 non-P5 school in Boise State. And then they have 3 P5s in a row. Then a couple of cupcakes, a bye week and some cupcakes. I wish we could get that bye week at a different time. But we have it like in the middle of our cupcakes, which is unfortunate. But anyway, then we have Idaho State, Georgia Southern, and then at USC. So the remaining schedule for BYU is significant. USC, Washington State, Virginia, Baylor, Boise State. Those are some tough games, but they're all winnable because we already have beaten Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Southern Florida, Utah State. Those are quality opponents BYU has played. All 5 are respectable opponents, and BYU is 5-0 and looking good. The one thing to worry about this week is, are we going to be on our 3rd-string quarterback? It looks like we probably will be. Cougar fans will be on their 3rd-string quarterback. But BYU, if they run the table, I don't know how you keep them out of the playoff. I don't know how, because, again, the one school that we would need to look out for as BYU fans would be Cincinnati. But here's Cincinnati's schedule. They played Miami of Ohio. Who? They played Murray State. Who? They played Indiana, Notre Dame. That's a big one. That was a good one. And that's the one that got them ranked so high, as they beat Notre Dame, number 9 Notre Dame. So we'll see what Notre Dame does the rest of the way. But looking at the rest of their schedule, Temple, not P5. UCF, not P5. Navy, not P5. Tulane, not P5. Tulsa, not P5. UCF, not P5. SMU, not P5. ECU, not P5. They literally don't play a Power 5 opponent. The only one is Indiana, right? Indiana, that's their one, and then Notre Dame. But Notre Dame's not in a conference. So, come on. You can't take an undefeated Cincinnati over an undefeated BYU. So we're going to have to see the committee honor that, and we're going to have to see that slowly start to shift. Even if both teams stay undefeated, you're going to have to see BYU climb up past Cincinnati. It'll be highway robbery if they don't, because Cincinnati does not have the schedule. They don't have it even up to this point. I don't know why they're ranked so high. Murray State, Miami of Ohio, and Indiana, those are 3 of your 4 wins. The only victory that they can really brag about right now is at Notre Dame. They've beaten 1 ranked opponent. BYU has beaten 2. So BYU is off to a fantastic start. Running the table is possible. It is. The schedule is set up to where this could be a year BYU actually goes undefeated. Now, I will say this. If you're a betting man or woman out there, to bet that BYU is going to win the next 7 straight, probably not the smartest move in the world. If I were betting, I'd bet that they do drop one somewhere. But in the past, it's been like, oh, we're going to clearly lose 3 games. We're going to clearly lose 5 games. We're going to clearly lose this 1 game. This schedule, I'm like, no, every single game here is winnable. Every single one is winnable. With this team and this schedule, every single one that's left is winnable. And the confidence is just the highest it's been in over a decade with the Cougars. I'm excited that they get to go back and play Virginia and Bronco. So we'll see if they can just keep it going. Again, quarterback issue could be a thing. At Baylor is going to be a big deal. Baylor will probably be ranked at the time. Baylor's currently 4-1, unranked at 4-1 in the Big 12. Kind of weird. But if Baylor, and clicking on them here to look at their schedule, So they've beaten Texas State, Texas Southern, lame. Kansas, Big 12, but sucky. And then they they beat Iowa State, who was ranked, and then they lost to Oklahoma State, who was ranked. So Baylor, if they beat West Virginia this next week and get to 5-1, you got to think they'll be ranked. So that would be BYU's third ranked opponent. And you got to think that they'd have a chance to really climb up above Cincinnati by beating a third ranked opponent and another Power 5 school from a different conference. They've already owned the Pac-12, and now they're going to go after the Big 12. So keep an eye on the Cougars. I do think that it's very much within the realm of possibility that they run the table. If they do run the table, they absolutely positively belong and deserve to be in the college football playoffs. I had some friends last night telling me that they would rather see BYU just go to a New Year's Six bowl and play a more winnable opponent than like an Alabama or a Georgia who they would face in the playoffs. And I personally disagree with that. I would much rather see BYU make the playoffs because everyone's expecting you to lose by like 3 touchdowns to someone like Alabama, maybe even more if we're being honest. But if BYU goes and plays Alabama in the college football playoffs and like say they lose by 17, that is a humongous victory because Alabama is going to steamroll this entire season. And nobody's expecting BYU to beat Alabama. Ohio State wouldn't be expected to beat Alabama. Michigan wouldn't be expected to beat Alabama. So why should BYU be expected to? So it wouldn't be that big of a loss, or a letdown if they lose to Alabama. But to get to the playoffs would be so sweet, right? Especially before the Utes. The Utes busted the BCS before BYU did. BYU never has, and the BCS doesn't exist anymore. They played in the Fiesta Bowl in 2004-5? It was 2005 Fiesta Bowl, but from the 2004 season. And then they played Pitt, who was in the Big East, which at the time was a Power 6 conference. By far, they were 8-4, by far the worst school of the conference champions. And so that's who Utah got in their bowl game. They won, of course, but it was the weakest of the weak. And then they bust the BCS again 4 years later, 2008 season, and they played Alabama, which is a huge name. But at the time, Alabama was totally disappointed to have not gotten into the national championship game. They didn't seem to be totally in it. So I'm going to take a little bit away just by nature of what I just said from that win. In the end, though, Utah did beat Alabama. Utah does have 2 BCS victories under its belt. What they have not done is made it to the college football playoffs. They have not played for a conference championship or won a conference championship. BYU is now in the driver's seat with some of their toughest games already behind them. Some of their toughest ones still yet to come, admittedly, but very winnable schedule. Can they now run the table and make this interesting? I think this week we get a win over Boise State. I feel pretty confident about that. Baylor is the big question mark. Will Jaron Hall be back? I think by Baylor he will be back. I think we're going to see him sit again this week, and I think that would be the smart move. Let's make sure he's fully healthy for that Baylor game because that's going to be a ranked opponent. That's going to be a future Big 12 foe. And so we really want to see him healthy for that one. We need that one to be a victory because if we get the next 2, I think you'll see BYU climb up to number 7 in the country, and we'll be looking for those initial college football playoff committee rankings to come out. So keep an eye on that. Okay, moving on to the NFL. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the showdown. It happened. Tom Brady is now the all-time passing leader in NFL history. The guy is the GOAT of GOATs. He's 44 years old, but somehow ageless. He keeps on winning. He keeps breaking records. Everywhere he goes, all he does is win, no matter what. He goes back to New England, wins again, becomes the 4th quarterback in NFL history to beat all 32 teams. The others are Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees. Drew Brees, whose hair miraculously has grown back, he was on site broadcasting the game for NBC when Tom Brady broke the record. And the New England Patriots did nothing. It was the weirdest play ever, first of all. It was they spotted the ball and he was a yard short, then they respotted it and he was tied, then they respotted it again and somehow he'd broken the record. So before we even knew it, the next play was happening. It was oh, and he actually broke the record. We missed it. Sorry. So Mike Evans gets a ball, and right when he caught it, I was oh, that's the record, because we knew he was 26 yards shy or something, and it looked like a 27, 28-yard gain to me, but it's it happened so quickly, it's tough to know exactly how many it was. And anyway, they spot the ball, and the announcer's like, oh, he's short. And they're like, no, he's not. Anyway, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, he did break the record. And the next play's happening. New England does nothing. They don't keep the ball for him. They don't stop the game. They don't make an announcement over the PA system. They literally just put a little graphic up on the Jumbotron that said, new all-time passing leader, Tom Brady. It's like, are you guys insane? He spent 20 years with your franchise and won you 6 Super Bowls. He literally is the Patriots. When people think of the New England Patriots, they think of Tom Brady. There's no other player that comes to mind before Tom Brady for the New England Patriots. There's not even the next 20 players on the list. If you were to just start polling New England Patriot fans as well as just random NFL fans, hey, who's the first player that comes to mind when you think of the New England Patriots? Tom Brady would have more votes than everybody else combined in their franchise history. That's how big of a deal he is to that franchise. I mean, and they can't even pause the game and do a real, genuine, hey, look, you did this. I'm guessing Bill Belichick had something to do with that, a lot to do with it, where he's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to freaking heap praise upon this guy in the middle of a competition. I don't know. I thought it was weird. Drew Brees, if you remember when Drew Brees broke the record, they literally had a Microsoft Word printed out document. It was the lamest piece of paper document ever, certificate, the new all-time passing leader. And they had hurried and typed it in the freaking booth 10 minutes before or something. They couldn't even do that for Tom Brady. They put a graphic up on the Jumbotron. I didn't see a game ball get tucked away, the actual ball that Mike Evans caught. I didn't see that get tucked away to be saved for Tom Brady as the all-time passing leader in NFL history, a record that will probably stand for years and years to come because there's no active players that are anywhere near him. And so, yeah, I thought that was interesting. That record will be broken just because the game is shifting so heavily towards favoring, the offense and quarterbacks and receivers in particular. So that record will be broken eventually. But it might take forever because this guy's in his 22nd year and he's the GOAT, still doing it at a high level in year 22. In fact, he's second in the league this year in passing yards. Second. So he gets the dub. Bill Belichick couldn't even couldn't even look Tom Brady in the eye in the post-game little meetup, at midfield. I called it as they were approaching. I'm like, he won't last 2 seconds in his ear. And doesn't even look him in the eye. Doesn't even take it was not even 2 seconds. If you were to time it, it was not even 2 seconds that he was there talking to Tom Brady. And you're just like, this guy is such a bitter, curmudgeon-y old man. You did then hear that Belichick went into the locker room, the Buccaneers locker room, after the game and was in there for 20 minutes, private conversation. I liked hearing that. So you got to think this guy must be at least a little bit more likable in private than he is to the public, because he's very unlikable to the public. He's just so blah, 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 blah. He's just an old angry old man. But he must be more likable. I mean, not too much because everyone, Tom Brady and these guys want to leave. And Tom Brady's trainer, whose name I'm spacing right now, but Tom Brady's trainer, the TB12 trainer, his right-hand man, if you will, he said straight up, Belichick, botched it. He kept treating a guy who was the greatest quarterback of all time in his 40s as if he was still an up-and-coming 20-something-year-old who needed to, earn his stripes. You got to adjust, bro. You got to appreciate what you have and adjust. My parents don't treat me the same way that they did, 20, 30 years ago. I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm a 40-year-old man. And so they treat me like that. We're almost like peers now. They're still my parents. I still respect and honor them and turn to them for advice. But they also turn to me for advice a lot. And you can tell that Bill Belichick just wanted to ride Tom Brady, really make an example of him in practices or something, and never wanted to pay him the big bucks. I mean, obviously he got rich, but he wasn't getting these massive deals that you're seeing Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and even freaking Kirk Cousins, Josh Allen, guys like that get. He got some some money here in Tampa Bay, but he had to leave to go get big money. So kind of interesting. I don't know what to think of Bill Belichick, but there's no question Tom Brady has won this divorce heavily. The guy leaves and at age 43 wins the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? His first year with a new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have like historically been the worst franchise in American sports. He wins the Super Bowl with them in his first year at age 43. Belichick, meanwhile, doesn't even make the playoffs. I mean, it's just not even close. Now he goes back to New England, beats them. I will say Belichick and his defensive-minded schemes did hold Tom Brady to his worst game of the season. Now, there was rain. There was a lot of nerves and edge, with Tom Brady. He didn't throw any picks, but he also didn't throw any touchdowns. Worst completion percentage of the season, barely over 50%. Didn't even hit 200 yards, I don't think, or maybe let me look at that score. And by the way, speaking of that game, Mac Jones looked really good. Like he had 19 straight completions at one point, which I think tied Tom Brady's career record. That was kind of interesting. But I thought he looked really good, Mac Jones. In fact, I'm pulling up the box score right now. Sorry. Just want to make sure I get it right. The Sunday night game. What a game that was. I was really, really enjoying that. Okay, so Mac Jones threw it for 275 on 31 of 40. So Brady, sorry, I lied. Tom Brady did have 269 yards passing, 22 of 43. So yeah, so barely squeaks in a completion percentage above 50%. No touchdowns, no interceptions, 269 yards. He did have rain. He did have nerves. He did have the guy who helped create him and Bill Belichick for 20 years defensive scheming against him. So advantage Belichick there. And then on top of that, he did have Antonio Brown drop a game-winning touchdown that was a perfect deep ball, like literally just a beautiful deep ball. Would have been like a 30-something yard touchdown, and he drops it. And that would have given him not only the extra 30-plus yards, but also a touchdown, which would have made the game just in general and his performance look that much better. Would have gotten him, up over 300 yards with a touchdown. But AB drops it in the end zone. Literally hits him right in the hands, and he drops it. Again, rainy conditions, but Mac Jones, 31 of 40, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Brady beats him out for QBR, 55 to 46. Passer rating, though, Mac Jones dominates 101 to 70. So, fun matchup. Also in the NFL, I have to talk about this. Zach Wilson gets his first dub of his young career. So, he's now got a victory. Trevor Lawrence is still without a victory. Mac Jones has one victory. Trey Lance getting some playing time in San Francisco. Did not look good. Justin Fields getting some playing time. Probably going to be the starter now moving forward, which I just dropped him from my fantasy team. Don't really regret it, though, because, whatever, I don't think he's going to be anything that special this year. I think he eventually will be, but it's tough for rookies. He's going to throw picks. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to get sacked. So I'm not going to fret about it too much. But Zach Wilson gets his victory, which was awesome to see. He had a fantastic game. He had a deep ball that was just so beautiful, where you've seen the play where he's scrambling out to the right, directs traffic, points downfield, and just, boom, bombs this perfect deep ball touchdown. I was so happy for Zach Wilson. He needed it because he started the game really, really shaky. I'm watching NFL Red Zone, and it's like he's 2 of 5 with a pick. I'm like, oh no, he has an interception and 2 completions. This is not good for Zach Wilson. But he ended the game 21 of 34, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the interception. And most importantly, they win. And it went into overtime, which was unfortunate because Zach Wilson actually did miss, who was it, Corey Davis maybe? Missed him like wide open for a game-sealing first down. They could have sealed the game with a first down and then run the clock out in regulation. Zach Wilson misses him on it's like a 5-yard slant. Like it was such an easy, or a 5-yard out maybe. Such an easy play. Like honestly, something that I could have completed. Like not exaggerating. It was a very simple play. Nerves must have gotten to him. Misses him. So they have to punt. Titans come down and score. Game goes into overtime. I'm thinking, oh no, this poor kid, he's not going to win again. But they do. They get the win. 27-24 over the Titans. Speaking of the Titans, Derrick Henry is just a monster. The guy had 157 yards and a touchdown. He has over 500 yards on the season. It's like 120 plus more than the next highest guy, which is Nick Chubb, also on my fantasy team. So he's just a monster. Okay, last thing I want to talk about in the NFL, then I got to talk a little bit NBA because we're getting close to NBA starting now. Taylor Heinicke, I said that he was the real deal. He has proven to be the real deal. The guy is on fire for my Washington football team. He's got the 13th highest QBR in the NFL right now, and he's improving each and every week. You're going to see that continue to climb. 8 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, 960 yards, 2-2, 2-1 as a starter. The guy is just looking really, really solid. The one game that the Washington football team lost with him starting was against the Bills when they're expected to lose. The Bills are a far superior team. Washington's defense needs to step it up. I'm a little bit disappointed in the defense this year. Like, we were so freaking stout last year. Like, our defense was everything. Now the offense has caught up with Terry McLaurin, J.D. McKissick, Taylor Heinicke. And, the defense is like, where'd they go? Where are you guys? Where'd this stout defense go? You're all back. What happened? So they got to figure that out in Washington. But Taylor Heinicke, most completions in NFL history through first 3 starts. And I'm stoked for him. Like, the guy is really, really awesome. And he had even more completions in his most recent start. So I'm sure he's got the most completions through your first 4 starts now. I'm stoked for him. Stoked for the Washington football team. Hope to see them keep going. This guy was like living on his in-laws' couch, not long ago. He was going back to school, like just looking at other things to do with his life when he got the call. And I thought going into this season that he should be the starter, not Ryan Fitzpatrick. I thought we should give him a chance. We're not even paying him very much. It's like very low risk here. And he's doing it. When Fitzpatrick is going to come back healthy. And at this rate, there is zero reason to have anyone but Taylor Heinicke starting for the Washington football team. He's only 28 years old. So if he proves to be something real, like a Kurt Warner, that's the analogy I gave, because Kurt Warner was bagging groceries and all of a sudden he was winning Super Bowl MVPs, okay? So this guy has this type of capability. He's hungry. He wants to prove it. He wants to prove everybody wrong. He's grateful for his opportunity, and he wants to go get a big contract and go live out his dream that has been delayed by several years. So he's 28. He's got at least 6-7 years of like prime athleticism left in him, and he's only going to keep getting better mentally, with the game, which is a very important part of being quarterback. So nobody but Taylor Heinicke should be starting for the Washington football team. Okay, next thing, and I called that long ago. So if any GMs out there need some consulting, let me know. My services are available. Okay, NBA is going to start soon. I'm excited. There's obviously all this talk about whether or not Kyrie's going to play and do all that, get the vaccination and all that stuff that he needs to do to be able to play. Very weird scenario. I think you're going to see him eventually kind of cave and play. I don't really know. I don't want to get into the politics of it. But what I do want to talk about is Ben Simmons and what a freaking diva that guy is. His pouting over the last couple weeks has reached an all-time high. He's demanding a trade. He is sitting out. He is forfeiting millions and millions of dollars. The 76ers have said, okay, that's fine. We're not going to pay you anything. We're going to put this in an escrow account. And if you show up and actually do what you're paid to do, then we'll pay you. We're not going to pay you to just go be some diva, put your apartment up for sale, complain that the team doesn't like you, they're not nice enough to you. Sorry that your teammates wanted you to shoot a layup that you were wide open that would have won a playoff series. That's what you're mad about? That they called you out for a blatant, obvious mistake that the entire country that was watching the games, which they're low rated nowadays, everyone saw it. Everybody. And you're going to be mad at them. You're going to pout and piss and moan because your coach and your star teammate Joel Embiid said, yeah, we should have taken that layup. We had a dunk and we didn't take it. You had Trae Young as the nearest defender. He's like 8 inches shorter than you. And he was like 3 feet from you and you were a foot from the basket. So in other words, you were completely unguarded and you didn't just lay it up. Weirdest thing any of us have ever seen. You were as scared as could be. You're terrified of the free throw line because you suck at the free throw line. You've made 0 efforts to improve your shooting over the last 4 years. Your free throw percentage has continued to suck. Your three-point percentage has continued to be non-existent because you can't shoot any, so you don't dare. Your shooting has gotten no % better in the last 4 seasons. Finally, people are like, this is a problem because now it's being exploited, and we just lost a playoff series because he was terrified to shoot a free throw. And so it's like we can't even keep him in the game at the end of games, which I called and got yelled at by you Philly fans, and I was right. And now you're losing him because he doesn't want to play there because he's a diva. He's a little crybaby. It's almost impossible to root for this guy. He's such an insecure, arrogant kind of guy. Like the guy that's so insecure that he has to mask it with arrogance. I'm the man. I'm this. I'm that. I'm, all whatever. I'm all NBA, blah, 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 blah. Well, you also kind of suck at shooting, which is like the core part of basketball. And I don't know. He's just a baby. He's a diva. I don't like it. And that's all I had to say. We'll see what happens. I hope he loses a lot of money. I do, because I don't think you should be rewarded for being such a baby and for quitting on your employer when they ask you to improve. That's like a performance review where they say, hey, look, dude, you got to hit these numbers or we're going to have to let you go. And it's like, hey, you have to learn how to shoot in this game or we're going to not be able to play you as much at the end of games. Oh, I want to quit. I want to go somewhere else. Demands a trade. Lame. Okay, MLB playoffs are underway. Walk-off home run last night. Dodgers. It was Dodgers-Cardinals. Dodgers get the walk-off. Bottom of the ninth. 2-run home run. Win the game 3-1. They're now in the playoffs. NLDS. We get Dodgers and Giants in the first round. How sick is that going to be? So you've got Braves-Brewers, Red Sox-Rays. Red Sox, of course, beat the Yankees in their wild card game. And White Sox-Astros. So MLB playoffs are underway. I don't have a whole lot to say about them right now, but you will hear me talking about them more as they start to unfold because now the wild cards are over and the real playoffs start. And I actually love Major League Baseball playoffs. I love them. So if you haven't been following Major League Baseball, the playoffs is the time to follow because there's a lot of drama that unfolds, just like last night. Walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth. Guys, that's it. That's all the time I have for today. Thank you for being here. Please hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back on track with more of these podcasts. Cougars will reach 6-0. We'll see if they continue to climb those rankings. That's all the time I have for today. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are warriors.